Happy Tuesday, happy Valentine's Day, NCAA men's basketball fans. This is your weekly TrogCast, two really old guys talking NCAA basketball. We're very lucky today. We're going to be joined by a third really old guy, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Lots of things to talk about. We'll kind of get you updated on the where the races stand and some of the bubble teams coming into the NCAA tournament. We've got a great interview lined up for you here with a super UK fan, John Calebs, and he'll talk about everything Wildcat basketball. And before we get started to that, though, we'll talk a little bit about something on the women's side with UConn and number 100. First, we'll say good morning to our two really old guys that are with us today. I'm Jeff Zink, and on the line with me are my normal co-trog, Jim Reaker, and we're joined today by dear friend of ours, John Calebs. Welcome, Jim and John.
Hey, man.
Good morning. Welcome,
Yeah.
John. Hey, we don't even have to change the name of our show because it could just be three really old guys today, which is still Trog.
Yep, that's true. I'm not sure what a trog is, but if it's
Trog
wow,
is two really
got it.
Trog's two really old guys talking sports.
Okay,
And
I got you.
could be a troglodyte, too, but we're not quite that old.
I got you.
Well, we'll let John join in, and we're going to get to him in just a minute. But first, we thought it would be remiss if we did not mention the fantastic record set last night by Gino Auriemma and his crew up at the University of Connecticut. They defeated the number 6 team in the country, South Carolina, who started off the year number 1 and earned their 100th win in a row. Now, a couple years ago, they broke the NCAA record by winning their 90th in a row, breaking that toll set by the great John Wooden's teams at UCLA in the late 60s and early 70s. But just a fantastic record. I don't know what you guys have to say about it, but even though this is a men's broadcast, you can't miss out on a record like that.
Oh, it's just unbelievable. Anybody to win 100 of anything. I mean, over a period of, I think, 2.5 years. And, yeah, I watched most of that game last night. Just I thought it was history. I wanted to watch it. And I didn't even realize, if you looked out there, that South Carolina had 2 girls, one 6'4", 6'5". They really, I don't know if you want to say outmanned, but they obviously had the height advantage, but still. And they said if he was going to lose a game, he's going to lose it this season because he doesn't have quite the talent he's had before. But he's just a great coach. He gets the most out of what he has. And if he isn't in every basketball Hall of Fame in the country, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm. JC,
Well,
any
guys, listen, I'll tell you, I've coached junior high basketball for 45 years, and if you can go undefeated for one season, it's pretty tough because I know I've had the better team a lot of times and not been able to get it done. So, congratulations to Gino, man. That's just a machine he's got up there, and he doesn't just play trolls either. I'm sorry I used that word, but he plays the top teams too, and he still keeps it going. So, kudos to him.
That's the biggest kudos is that I think 28 of the 100 victories have been against teams in the top 25 on the women's poll, and he'll go everywhere. I mean, the American Athletic Conference, as we know, isn't all that strong on either side, especially on the women's side. I don't think he's lost a game in the American in close to 10 years, or ever since they formed it. But he'll go to Stanford, he'll go to Notre Dame, he'll go to South Carolina, he'll go to Tennessee. And the other thing about this, the last loss against Stanford in the 2014-15 year, if they hadn't lost that game, he'd be looking at going toward 150. So it's only one loss in close to 140 games. So just an amazing streak for the UConn women and Coach Auriemma.
And you just spoiled my trivia question.
Well, you got to have several on hand, sir. We're both doing research. We don't do it together. Jimmy loves something, but I'm sure he'll have something else in his pocket.
I still got a ringer for you, maybe. I didn't do real good research, but I'll throw it at you anyway. At the end of the show.
You'll get me. I have no doubt. And JT, you want to stick around for that with his labyrinth of questions to try to stump me, which he usually does.
We'll see. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
I got something to say there about that streak. I know John Wooden had the long streak and everything, and he's a great coach, a great man and everything. I appreciate all he did. But when he had that streak going, generally he had a 7-footer. And then generally back in those days, they played most of the teams in the West which were not as good as all the teams in the East. And so, he had it pretty easy somewhat until he got to the Final Four, and then they had to play teams in the East. So I just say Gino's record's a little tougher, and it's a great job by him and his crew up there.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to you, JC. We got a great opportunity here to talk to a super UK fan. We're going to turn it back over to JR, and he's got some questions lined up for you. So, Jim, why don't you fire away at John, and Jeff will sit here in the background and add in as I can.
Well, first of all, JC, I have a question for you. You had a game last night, right?
No, our tournament just started. Now, remember, I'm just an 8th grade coach. I'm no big-time guy or anything, but our tournament started Saturday, and then we have the semifinals tomorrow. And then
tomorrow.
The 7th grade plays semifinals today, and then our friend Brian Benzinger's in the semis today. So we both got first-round byes and did not have to play Saturday.
Well, a little bird told me you're sitting on 498 wins, and if you can win that tournament, you will have your 500th victory in 8th grade basketball. Is that true?
Well, in junior high basketball, I coached 7th grade for a few years there, but maybe 7 or 8. But, yeah, it kind of adds up. But, I'll be honest with you, I've just been here a long time. It's no great coaching job, but it's a testimony to being old and just hanging around, I guess. But I've had great kids, and the kids do a good job. And I tell you, I love this year's team just about as well as any I've ever had. And, if we can, and it'll be tough, but if we can win our last 2 games, that's perfect 5-0 for NRMS.
Okay, well, let's get to the reason we invited JC onto the show today. He is, in my opinion, 2 things. Number one, the number 1 UK super fan that at least I've been associated with, and he's the one that I like the most also. Sometimes we maybe get accused of not talking about UK or not liking UK, so we wanted to show that we are impartial, and we invited JC here to talk to us a little bit about UK basketball and how he became the super fan. First of all, you did grow up in Kentucky. We know in Southern Ohio a lot of UK fans never even lived in Kentucky, which I kind of find a little strange. But you grew up in Kentucky, correct? Tell us about where you grew up and how you became a UK fan, some of your early recollections of the UK Wildcats.
Okay, Jim, thank you. I was born in Barberville, Kentucky, a little I guess home of Union College, and the first house ever built in Kentucky was built near there, and born back in the late 40s. And, we everybody in Kentucky is Kentucky fans, really, just about everybody. And I just remember growing up, just a normal kid like everybody else, and then somewhere around when I was 10 or so, I went to bed listening to a basketball game, and a guy named Cotton Nash was playing. And I'm going, this Cotton Nash guy, man. And basketball, and it's all going through my mind. And then Kentucky lost. And I'm thinking, man, why am I crying here? So I think, well, this must mean something to me if I'm crying. And, I'm only 10 years old, so and then as you get into it, you start reading about them and listening to them. And then my dad was a fan there, and before he passed away, and he passed away when I was about 12 or 13. So I just remember he and I sitting in the car. You had to go park on top of a hill somewhat to pick up the station, but I think it's WHAS out of Louisville. And we would, it wasn't on TV in those days, but we'd sit in the car and kind of tune around with the AM radio, so we'd get WHAS and listen to Adolph Rupp and the Cats, and just kind of ingrained in you after that. And then everybody at school, you talk about the next day, talk about the game, and the teachers talk about it, and it's just part of your life down there. And I don't know why, but I really am impassioned by them. And but there's a lot more passionate fans than me. But I do appreciate them, and I'm glad that I'm a UK fan because they're contenders almost every year and not just 1 year every 10 years or so. So it's been a real blessing for me to be a fan all my life.
Yeah, we think you're the most rational UK fan. That's what there's probably some that would maybe be bigger than you or crazier than you, but you're the most rational. When was the first time you actually saw a UK game, whether that be on television or in person? Do you recall that?
Well, I don't know I don't know if I remember when I first saw one. I just remember, trying listening to them forever when I was younger, and then I think I got to go to a game in Memorial Coliseum before Rupp, somewhere in the late '60s, and I'm not sure what year Rupp opened, but I think it's around mid-'70s. And in the late '60s, I was a freshman at Berea College, and you go to another college and you're still a Kentucky fan, but Berea's your team right there on campus, and we got to go to a game in Memorial, and I'm not sure who it was or anything, but I just remember I was very entertained and, had a great time there, and it's just the way it is. And then when you're at college, when the game's on, you don't schedule dates and you don't schedule intramurals and you don't schedule lessons, studying or anything. You sit in the dorm there and watch it on the screen in the dorm with everybody else, and there's a lot of high-fiving and things like that going on. Just had a little group therapy for the UK game, and then if they win, which they do most of the time, you feel pretty good the rest of the weekend or the rest of that week. And if they lose, then you're kind of despondent somewhat and try to say it's only a game, but down there it's part of your life. So I don't know the exact time or anything. I just remember Cotton Nash listening on the radio when I was younger, and Dad and I listening to it on WHAS. So I think Rupp Arena opened in mid-'70s there, and I just remember they were building it, and I read the paper every day, and they said they got this Rupp Arena, seat 20, I think originally 22,000 or something. Now it's almost 24. And they said they'll never fill it. They'll never fill it. And they did fill it, and they still are filling it. So it's a passion down there. So just kind of happy to be there, and happy I'm a UK fan. And I like other teams too, but I don't like.
What's your second favorite team? Tell everybody your second favorite team. I think I know.
You don't know who it is.
Oh, okay.
other
For this
year, college. Who do you think?
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it'd be the Musketeers.
Oh, Xavier, I like Xavier. I went to Xavier and everything, but a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when they played UC, and there was a big fight there, and I'm not a UC fan, but I don't hate anybody. I just think they're a team there, and the UC disciplined their guys a little more than Xavier did, and that took a little luster off of Xavier for me. But until that point, I was a big Xavier fan. So. And maybe Xavier did it, and we just weren't aware of it. But I like Xavier. I like their style of play, and I like their way that they run and gun. I've gone to a lot of Xavier games, so yeah, they might be my second favorite team.
Hey, one other question.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, the other day I took my boys over to see UC Claremont at Batavia, and we had a heck of a time over there. I mean, they had us in there, and it's a bubble gym, and I had 10 or 11 of my guys there, and we just had a great time there, and I just enjoyed that a lot too. And on top of that, they were playing Berea College, and they beat Berea College, but I was rooting for UC Claremont at the time, so it was fun. We had a good time. It's basketball, like you said.
Hey, I have one question on. We're going down memory lane a little bit here, and we'll switch to this year's UK team here in a couple minutes and talk about your thoughts about that and where they're headed. But I was thinking, because I just watched the movie about it, the 1966 National Championship when they played Texas Western. Do you remember that game?
Oh,
you probably
I definitely remember that. Yeah, I do. I was a freshman at Berea that year, and Kentucky, their tallest guy was 6'5", I think it's Thad Jarris, and Pat Riley was on that team, and one of the best guards ever, Louis Dampier. And they were really good, and they were great, and they weren't very tall. And I just remember when they won the semifinal game, I think it's against Duke, we thought they had it. We didn't know anything about Texas Western, and I saw that movie too, and I think it's a little bit off, but I think if I recall, Pat Riley had a little bit to say about it when he first saw it, and they changed some things, but I think they kind of wanted to show Adolph Rupp as a racist somewhat, and I don't think he was a racist, but and I know in the movie he waved rebel flags and stuff like that, but that's not true. I think it's just theatrics. But I do know, I know after that game, I just cried myself to death almost. I thought, man, that is awful, because we loved that team. They were smaller than everybody else, but they ran and they shot and they gunned, and it was just a lot of fun. And and Texas Western, give them credit, they really outplayed them there. But that was just a movie, and there was a lot of factual stuff in there. And I think the race part of it showed up later. I don't think at the time Kentucky, maybe when you're raised in the 20s and 30s, maybe you looked at race a little different than I did. But I was raised in the 60s, and there's a lot of discourse there. But we didn't think anything about black and white at the time. But I know the movie made that a big deal. But,
yeah, of course, that movie portrays the fact that was the first all-African American starting five in a national championship game. It may have been in a college game altogether, because I know those five didn't start during the season, but their coach at the time made a decision to start all five of them to maybe make a statement. But it's interesting, somebody being there didn't really, it was a different world then.
It was. And I just know Duke they were all white team too. It's just when you lived, the way I understand it, if you were in the deep South at the time, if Kentucky had a black guy on their team and they'd gone down and played in Alabama or Georgia or something, that player would not have been allowed to stay in the hotel with the rest of the players, and he wouldn't have been allowed to eat with them and stuff. And I think Rupp didn't want to, now Rupp may have been a little bit racist, I don't know, but I think he didn't want to go through all that hassle when he could just coach the white kids and not have to deal with that at the time.
All right, well, let's talk about the coaches, and we'll get to John Calipari and this year's team. Do you have a favorite coach from them?
Besides Coach Cal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I really like Rick Pitino. When he came there, Kentucky underwent a scandal, which is a little bit questionable, but I'm sure some things went on. And he built that program up, and he made it a lot of fun, and it was called Pitino's Bombinos, and we had a T-shirt that said Pitino's Bombinos, and they were just, they were undersized, outmanned, and most of them were all young Kentucky boys from the hills, and it was a lot of fun. I just thought that was the 92 team. I think Pitino came in there 91 or something, but 91, 92, right in that era. But Rick Pitino did a great job there. Now, I don't think he ever understood the concept of Kentucky basketball. And in Kentucky, I mean, that's the main entertainment for that whole state. I mean, they have horse racing and they have other things going on there, but their basketball team is part of them. And maybe it's like that in Kansas or somewhere else, but basketball is the one thing they usually excel at. And Pitino brought that back, with Richie Farmer and all those guys, and it was a lot of fun. And we got to go to some games that year, and I remember the game with Duke there that where it just broke my heart when they lost that game, because I was down here at there used to be a Willie's restaurant in northern Kentucky, and me and my son-in-law and some friends went down there, and Jim Robinson went with me too, and I just remember, and Johnny Click, one of my old high school buddies, and when we scored to go ahead, and then Christian Leitner made the shot at the end. When we scored to go ahead, it was a lot of fun because it was packed and stacked in there. And then that's 20, 30 years ago. I was a little bit younger then, and all the young girls were hugging me, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is pretty cool. Everybody's hugging everybody and everything. And then Christian Leitner makes that shot, man. It just like, lights. I mean, it's just like it just took the heart of everybody. And we just walked out in silence. Nobody said a word, and everybody just walked out like, man, somebody just shot the president or something. I mean, it was awful. But that team was a lot of fun. I think Rick Pitino was a great coach, and I just give him a lot of credit for bringing the program back. And then, we had some other good coaches, Joe B. Hall, and, of course, Adolph Rupp, who built the whole thing. And then, I kind of liked Eddie Sutton. I think he had his problems and stuff, but I liked him. And then Tubby Smith was a really good coach, too. So, I think Coach Cal does a good job, too.
Yeah, see, I'm telling our listeners he is a rational UK fan because most UK fans don't even acknowledge that Rick Pitino even coached at UK because of his ties now with the Louisville Cardinals. So that 92 game with Christian Laettner, is that your worst memory of UK basketball?
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I've got some other disappointments, but that was probably the worst thing there. And that, and then the Rups Runts you were talking about earlier, them losing, and that was pretty sad. I had a most embarrassing moment. Would you like to hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know when. Remember when Kentucky played UC down here at Riverfront Coliseum? And,
I do. Tony Yates was coaching?
Tony Yates, that's right. And a good player in his time. And Kentucky's number one in the country. Had Sam Bowie and all those guys. And I just recall I'm going to that game. And me and John Harrison, John Harrison used to be the preacher out here. And so we go to that game. And I got to shoot shots at halftime of that game. Now, Tony Yates, he wanted to win the game. He didn't realize that his role was just to lay over and let Kentucky win. But so he stalled as before the shot clock. So he stalled, and real ugly game. It was a real low score at halftime. I think maybe 11-7 or 14-11 or something. But at halftime, I was picked to shoot. I think you got $5 if you made a layup, and 10 if you made a free throw, and then 25 if you make the 3-pointer, and then if you make half court, you get $100 or something. So I'm all nervous about it and everything. You knew during the first half you were one of the guys. So about 3-4 minutes before half, and it's a stall ball game, and everybody's booing and stuff. So I'm down there, and I'm thinking, well, I'm a basketball coach. I coach junior high, shoot every day. And I can make a layup, and I can make a free throw, and I can make then there's 3-pointers then. I can make a 3-pointer, but I can't the half-court shot. That's what I'm worried about. So I get out there. There's like 3 of us doing it. So the first 2 go, and I go last. And I'm a Kentucky fan. And so I make the layup, and everybody's cheering and everything. Then I go to the free throw line, and I missed it. And I go, gosh, I never miss one. But you had to get your own rebound. You have a minute to get all this done. So I run over, get my rebound, and I missed it. And I run over, get my rebound, and I missed it. I'm going, oh, my gosh, I can't make a free throw. And then the crowd started booing. And, it's packed and stacked down there. And everybody's booing me. And most of them are Kentucky fans anyway. I'm getting booed like everything. So right before the horn goes off, I make the free throw. I didn't even get to shoot the others. So I got, $25 or whatever. And but that was embarrassing, getting booed by 19,000 people or whatever there. So that was kind of funny that happened, because I never missed 3 or 4 free throws in a row, but that night I surely did.
All right, on to this year's team. We talk about the one and dones that Cal has kind of created at UK. And first question, and I'll give you a couple here, and you can just talk about this year's team and your thoughts. But first of all, how do you like the one and done? Does it change your opinion of the program? Is it kind of hard to get to like guys that are only there for a year? And what do you see with this year's team? They've kind of struggled a little bit lately. Some people point to the one and done, the inexperience of being a part of that. They don't play defense because maybe 3 or 4 of them are going to be in the NBA anyway. We know the NBA usually doesn't play defense. So talk about this year's team a little bit, and Coach Cal, and how you think about or feel about that.
Okay, well, Coach Cal is like I've heard you say many times. He reminds you of a car salesman, and that's probably true. I think he is just the perfect guy for that job, because he understands that Kentucky basketball means so much to everybody, and he's always promoting it and everything. Now, his point of attack is he's all for the player, and he wants to get them to the next level. And I understand that too. And if I were a high school kid and I wanted to go to the NBA, I would go to Kentucky. Now the one and done thing is beyond his control. That's the rules, and that's the way it is. And this year's team, be honest with you, I kind of embraced it now. At first I had questions about it, but now I kind of like it, because a friend of mine and myself, we kind of got season tickets almost the whole thing, and you can watch them at the beginning of the year, and then you can kind of watch them grow and get better and get better and get better. But this year's team, now they look pretty good. They kept going, and then lately they've hit a little wall there. But I think their problem is they don't have a shot blocker. They don't have a Nerlens Noel or Anthony Davis in there that if the guards can't guard their guy, like Malik Monk can't guard anybody, and then he gets by Malik Monk, then they've got one guy in there, and he's always in foul trouble, and he's not as tall as the other guys that he's used to having. So I just think they're missing that one player that can guard the rim. And you look at them, they're not all freshmen. They've got 2 seniors. They got Derek Willis and they got Dominique Hawkins, and they're both great players, and anywhere else they'd be starting. And those kids have been there 4 years. But I think, Duke has a one and done. They just don't have 5 of them starting. That's the problem. And then if you you think of Isaiah Briscoe, I'm sure he wanted to be a one and done last year, and he came back. And now I don't know that he's good enough to be in the NBA next year, but they got a great class coming behind him. And, what's he going to do if he wants to come back? There's probably not a spot for him because the guys behind him are probably better than him. So it's a tough quandary in the world of recruiting, but I kind of like it, and I've embraced it probably because I'm biased. But I know other teams, there's nobody on that one, and all those guys that go there, there's not a team in the country wouldn't take them for 1 year. And the only thing that I like about Cal, when they say they might go to the NBA, they have to finish their second semester, and they have to do the work in class and everything. And I just remember last year, it was raining, and they had a game away down, say, LSU or somewhere the night before, and I was down there near the campus the next morning, not for a game or anything, but just down there shopping or something. And it's raining, and it's like 10 in the morning, and I see Scal Labissiere walk into class under an umbrella. And I know he didn't get home till 1 or 2 in the morning from LSU. And I'm thinking, well, he's going to class, and I think that's good. And now he's I don't think he's ready to go to the NBA for him per se, but just for all the guys that go there, they sign a paper that they have to finish that second semester and not just quit like the guy did from LSU last year. And I like that. I think he's teaching them to finish the job there. And if my grandson was good enough to play there, I'd want him to go there. But then you got to watch out by him recruiting over top of him. So it's a dilemma for coaching. But if you look at the whole broad scheme of things, it's just entertainment anyway, Jim. And I used to, when I was younger, I'd probably almost jump off a bridge in case they lost. But now I realize it's entertainment, and you can have the best team in the country like Kentucky did 3 or 4 years ago, and lose to UConn in the finals. And so I've experienced the same thing on the 8th grade level. I've had the best team and lost the finals a lot of times. So it's just one and out. You never know. So I kind of like it, and it's probably because I'm biased toward them. But other schools take any one of those players for 1 year. Just Kentucky gets so many of them. And let's talk about understand them wanting to go there.
Yeah, let's talk about the fan side of it for just a little bit. Why do you think UK fans are so obsessive over their team, and they have all the paraphernalia? So a follow-up question, how many items do you think you own that have some UK or their logo on it? And what's the most unusual thing you have that is a UK? And I'm sure you've gotten lots. I'm sure when you get gifts, especially when you were teaching, I bet every gift was something UK because everybody knew they got you something UK, you'd be happy.
Well, honestly, I don't buy myself very much UK at all, like you said, but I get a lot of gifts from people that know me, and they buy me Kentucky stuff. So I'm sitting in our second bedroom, which our grandkids use once in a while here, and just looking around, I've got some, like baseball cards, but they got basketball cards, and I've got like the 75 team basketball cards on the wall with a clock. That's pretty unusual. And I've got a real clock over there, like a circular one that works, and I see Rick Pitino when he was young, autographed picture of him. And I'm just sitting here right now looking at this. I've got a bunch of posters of last year's team. I see Derek Willis and Marcus Lee. There's a guy who had stayed this year. He could have been a star this year, and they could have used him, and they'd been a lot better. And various Kentucky things in here. And but probably the most unusual is one I'm looking at. I got as a Christmas present last year. It's a locker room, like a picture of 3 jerseys 23, Derek Anderson, and 54, Patrick Patterson. And in the middle is Caleb's number 1, right in between there. And it's a big picture there, so I appreciate that. I got that from a former player of mine, former friend, so got that last year, so got a lot of stuff there. So, yep, that's nothing really unusual, and I'll be honest with you, I buy a lot of stuff, but it's usually for somebody else. So, but
you don't have any UK underwear?
Well, actually, I do have one of those. Yeah, but I don't call it unusual. I wear underwear all the time.
not if I guess it's not unusual if you're a UK fan. Maybe some of us others. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have any Xavier underwear. I can tell you that right now.
Don't you? So, well, let's see if we can get you some.
All right, let's we'll kind of.
How about my UK birdhouse? I got one of those.
See, I bet you got 500 items that have UK on it or something.
Oh, I got a bunch, a few.
So, are you going down to the game tonight?
No, we don't. You know, this year, our friend Big Jim Robinson there, he hooks us up with these season tickets there, and this year we had 15 games, and tonight's not one of them. So I think they had 19 home games, so we had 15 of the 19 this year, and we don't have tonight's, but. That's good anyway because our 7th grade team has a game, and I want to be there to support him. So right after the game, though, I'll be coming home, getting the popcorn ready, and checking out the Cats versus the Vols. Now, when we grew up, I'm from Barberville, like I said at the beginning, and we're 30 miles from Tennessee line, and our daily paper is the Knoxville News Sentinel from Knoxville. And Tennessee was a big rival back in those days. They had Ray Mears and Big Dan DeVoe and those guys, and the big Orange Country, and probably at that time in the 60s, Tennessee is our biggest rival. So they're pretty good. They beat us last time, and it should be a good game tonight. We'll see. We'll measure Kentucky's progress on how they do tonight. So, no, I'm not going, but I'll be there in spirit.
Okay. Well, we'll bring Jeff back in, and Jeff, he covers the SEC for us, and we're going to finish the show up by going over some big games over the Big Six conferences. So, Jeff, you want to talk about the SEC, and you might want to talk about that game tonight and how important it is for the championship there.
Well, that is what's crucial. We've talked about it in the SEC. Many people think are down this year. They do have 3 teams in the top 25, but nobody in the top 10. But they're going to be there come tournament time. Right now, Joe Lenardi's got 4 teams in his bracket, with Kentucky and Florida both being a 3 seed, South Carolina 6, and Arkansas is in that one of those last 4 games. But tonight's a big game for the Wildcats because it's a revenge game. We talked last week, Jim and John, I don't know if you heard, but there always seems to be a stumble somewhere, and if you can avoid those. But the Wildcats did stumble a little bit when they played the Vols the last time. Of course, tonight they got them at home, so it's a bit of a revenge match. They can get past that. But the big game's coming up, and you can comment on these. The big one will be in a little over a week when they have to host Florida, and that's right after the Gators will have played South Carolina. And those 3 teams right now are at the top. They're all tied at 10-2. So the Tennessee game and those other 2 games are probably going to decide the SEC. So we'll let our big Kentucky fan tell us how he thinks those games are going to go.
Well, I got, of course, I think Kentucky will come out of all that, but primarily because they got Florida at home and they got Tennessee at home tonight, and they've already beaten South Carolina. I don't know if they have to go back down there or not. I'm not sure about that.
No, they don't play again.
Okay, so I just know Florida has to play South Carolina and Kentucky back-to-back, with a few days apart. So Florida has to beat South Carolina and then come back and play Kentucky. So hopefully South Carolina, not that they'll beat them, but give them a real tough time, and or Florida might be looking past South Carolina and get beat that night. So, I think Kentucky will be fine. I don't know that they're the top team. Once they get in the tournament, they could go to the Final Four, or they could lose the first or second, maybe not first, but second round. And look at them last year; they were really good last year, and they lost to Indiana in the second round. So. It is what it is, and you just go where you can. And but I like Kentucky. They always do a good job in that SEC tournament. And it's when you go down there for Kentucky, don't make it past the first round. Once the SEC tournament starts, everybody leaves, and they're the biggest draw in the whole conference. And I think I heard Coach Cal say the other day that when he goes on the road, they're always giving out T-shirts. They always have a sellout, and they always have a black out or a white out or a maroon out or something, or an orange out. And they're the biggest draw on the road because Kentucky was the dominant team back in the 40s and 50s, and grandparents raised their kids to be fans, and there's a lot of Kentucky fans throughout the South. And, of course, they were the main team going back then, and a lot of those fans show up at those away games. So,
Well, no shock that our super Wildcat fans going to pick the Wildcats to come out of that, and I've got to agree with you, especially since they have Florida at home. Of course, South Carolina might be in a sneak game here. They've got Arkansas on Wednesday, with Arkansas being on the bubble. Whatever they can do to get themselves in is going to be important. Let's go through some of the other big games of this week. That's the SEC. If you're not, we won't be able to go into them in depth because we've been able to enjoy these minutes here with the Big JC. But we've got some big games in the Big Ten in particular. Northwestern, who upset Wisconsin the other day, and pretty much probably established the fact they're going to go to the dance for the first time ever, but they've got to host Maryland. If they could salt that one away, I think that would definitely ensure their spot in the dance. You've got Virginia, who's got a big week coming up. They host Duke tomorrow night, and Duke is back into a flow with Coach K on the bench and getting their, like you said, their one and done into the rotation. They've got some other people there, Franklin's Luke Kennard, being talked about for Player of the Year, but then they've got to turn right around and play North Carolina on Saturday. So that's going to be a big thing for the Cavaliers, who've now lost 3 of their last 5. They're going to go to the dance, but it's all going to be a matter of seeding. In some of the other Big Ten games that we talked about, Wisconsin has to go to Michigan, and usually, the way things have been going, but Michigan's been hot of late, and they're on the bubble for the tournament. So if Michigan could pull off an upset there, especially Wisconsin being a little weak, that could be a big, big game for Michigan. And then we're going to end the week. This is why I'm thinking, looking ahead, they could be looking ahead. Maryland has to play Wisconsin on Saturday at Wisconsin, and that game is probably going to be a big factor in deciding the Big Ten champion. So lots of things going on there.
How about Ohio State? What do you think about them?
Ohio State, I wish old Thad Matta, our old Xavier man, could get back. I keep pushing them, but they just haven't been able to get over that hump. I think this is a year where they might have to go to the NIT and get their horses lined up for next year.
Yeah.
In the Big East, we got one game to keep an eye on. We'll talk more about all of these on our weekly RazorCast on Thursday, which is all about Xavier basketball. But Creighton has to go to Seton Hall, and Creighton and Butler have all moved down in the rankings, as have the Muskies. And Seton Hall is another one of those teams on the bubble fighting to get into the tournament. And they could really be helped by a win over a top 20 team. And then in the Big 12, what we thought would be a bigger game than it was is, number 3 Kansas has to travel to Waco to play Baylor, but after last night, things have changed quite a bit. Baylor got upset by Texas Tech, and the Jayhawks came back against West Virginia to win in overtime. So this is pretty much a must-win for Baylor in order to get a chance at the Big 12 championship. They'll need to beat the Jayhawks and then get a little help, and they still have to play West Virginia, whereas Kansas is done with them. So Kansas looking for, I think that's Jimmy, you told me it's 13th in a row there in the Big 12. And the big Pac-12 game this week is Southern California goes to UCLA, and the Bruins are going to need to avenge that loss to stay in the Pac-12 hunt, where Arizona now has a half a game lead on Oregon in that. So lots of big games going up. We'll talk about some of those next week when we got our TrogCast. Thanks a lot to John. Anything, Jim or John, you want to say about the games I just briefly went over?
I tell you, you gotta love college. I'm sorry, Jim. You just gotta love college basketball. It's so entertaining and everything, and you just never know what's going to happen sometimes. So, look at the struggles of some of the top teams so far. So, I'm just proud and happy to be a college basketball fan. So, just appreciate growing up that way, and thank you guys for having me here today. I appreciate it a lot.
Well, hang on, we're not done yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Back to my conferences just real quick. I'm going to tell you right now, Villanova's won the Big East. Now it's who finishes second, third, and fourth because, if you finish second or third, you wouldn't have to see Villanova till the final game of the tournament. And I think the same is true with Kansas. Yeah, with that. I couldn't believe they came back. I went over to the women's game with about 4 minutes to go, and I thought, man, this is really going to throw a wrench into this with West Virginia maybe beating Kansas at Kansas. And then I flipped back on about 11:30, and they were still playing because Kansas had scored 14 points in the last 3 minutes of regulation to tie it. So, again, Kansas has won that. I think it's West Virginia, Baylor hoping to finish second and third again so they don't have to see Kansas till the final of that. And then one observation about Wisconsin, they just are not playing very well. Even the games they're winning at home have been close games, a win over IU, who's really struggling, and a win over Nebraska. They just don't look good right now. And then they, of course, lost to Northwestern, and I think that was at home too. So I thought Wisconsin was going to run away with that, but team I like there right now is Purdue with Big E Swanigan. He's a force.
That's right. Yeah. Having a great year.
Well, lots of great basketball, as John has told us, and it is fun to just sort of watch. We'll have more on the Big East on Thursday, and lots of them, so come back and listen to us. We'll wrap it up as we always do with Jim's uncanny set of trivia questions. And what have you got today? I guess I spoiled it. I guess you're going to ask me who was the last team UConn lost to. But what else you got for me?
That's what I was going to ask you, and I should have known you do your homework. But I got one. JC's going to have to help me with this because he knows the answer better than I. No, you know this answer. You'll understand. But I'll ask the question, and Jeff can't even Google this one, so we'll be good. He Googles on me all the time. That's how he comes up with some of his answers. But
if you need to say that to sleep well at night, you go right ahead. Maybe you just need to ask better questions. Go.
The question, I believe, not many people, this is JC, John Caleb's history. A trivia question about John Caleb's, I believe. And if I'm wrong, JC, just correct me. But did you not, don't say where it was because this is the question for Jeff. You attended another college at one time in the state of Indiana, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. The question for you, Jeff, is which college in Indiana? And remember how we always do these questions. It's always something that we've talked about. So give us your best shot at that one. JC went to what college in Indiana?
Well, you love to dig deep. Yeah, not only Googling. He probably goes down to the archives as deep as he is. I'm surprised he's not allergic to dust by now, trying to dig out the hardest thing that he can just to stump me. And school in Indiana that we've talked about today.
No.
Oh, you just said it. Just related to something we talked about today.
I'll give you a big hint. A school in Indiana we talk about a lot.
Well, then it would have to be Fort Wayne because that's all you ever talk about.
That's right, JC?
That's it. IUPU.
IUPU FW they used to call it, but now they just call it the Fort Wayne Mastodons. So you were a Mastodon at one point in your life, right?
I think I was. I think I learned Cal 2 and German at IUPU. Pretty good.
Yeah, the Mastodons are my pick to be the surprise team in the NCAA this year. We did that on our first show. I think you told me you listened to our first show, maybe.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I don't recall. I did.
Oh, maybe it was your buddy Bubba.
We made such an impression that he can't even remember whether or not he listened to it. Well, I'm sure that the whole Caleb's clan will be listening to this one to see the wisdom of the big Poppy there, the big JC known throughout the recent New Richmond High School Hall of Famer, and hope he can bring it home that 500 this week. We'll end with just a couple of things in history and sports history. We'll get off the air, and don't forget to listen to us next Tuesday. It's on this date in 1876. Alexander Graham Bell patented the telephone just a couple of hours before the patent was turned in by his rival, Elijah Gray. In 1946, the first computer is unveiled, the ENIAC, very famous, which probably was not even as powerful as our phones today, but got things started in the computer world. And in 1966, the first time ever that a high school male athlete was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and you guys both with your Indiana roots will appreciate that Rick Mount of Lebanon, Indiana, was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And we'll finish up with saying happy birthday to Rip Hamilton, who won the national title in 1999 with the UConn Huskies and then had a 14-year NBA career, including a championship with Detroit in 2005. So lots of fun things going on there, folks. Got some final thoughts there for us, JC and JR?
Well,
I'd just like to thank JC for coming on the show, and good luck in your final games, and you'll be heading south here pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I might take a little vacation here pretty soon. First wife wants me to take one, so I probably will. But I enjoyed it, guys. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for coming on. We'll see you on our fans on Thursday and back again on Tuesday.
See you guys. Thank you.